Hello. I am tired. I rode with Mom to Statesboro today because her hip and shoulder pain's getting pretty bad. So she went shopping today, and I basically did all of the bending over or picking up anything heavy. It wasn't that bad. It was not that bad. And I want to point out beforehand that any complaints I may have pale in comparison to helping my mom. But if it was me, I would have stayed home. I don't even think it was pandemic related this time. Man, I'm glad I wasn't the one driving. You know, I say it wasn't pandemic related, but I can't help but demonize is a bad word, but it is kind of the way I feel when I see customers without masks, or, specifically in one of the grocery stores, I saw two members of what had to be management because they were wearing button downs and ties and speaking very critically with a regular employee, and they both had their masks pulled down. And it's just like, bitch, you're supposed to be the most responsible people in this store. You have a sign out front that says you cannot enter this store without a mask. And not only do I see a few customers without masks, but the fucking management's up here not wearing one. I know this is Georgia. I know it's full of idiots, but fucking grow a pair and do what's right. Or maybe lose your pair that you think you have, and stop, being that guy who's, well, I run this place, I can do what I want. Fuck you. Sorry. It just... If humankind inherently took things more seriously, just in general, and just a little more, maybe the planet wouldn't be literally on fire at, at any given moment. This was not where I intended for this to go tonight, but God, I just remembered that. And if I hadn't been with my mom, I probably would have said something kind of sarcastically out loud. Man, I wish I was important enough to not have to wear a mask. It must be great. Because, look, I've worked customer service, and there is a lot of stuff where I will not be that guy. But when it comes to the safety of your customers and your staff, I will be that guy. And, that manager, or whatever his position was, and his little lackey following him around, whatever their positions were, they were putting their staff and their customers at risk. That's the thing about, I'm pretty sure I'm even on record here saying this. This isn't like a hurricane. If you want to be, a dumbass and take your chances with a hurricane, well, the only one that's going to suffer you and maybe your immediate family if your dumbass gets killed. They'll be sad and all. With something like this virus, you are not just deciding to take the risk on yourself. You are endangering people around you. Okay? Your right to, your right to not take precautions does not override my right to want us to a safe environment, okay? And if you're going to make that environment unsafe, you don't have a right to be there. I'm sorry. You know, it's like the First Amendment stops when it impedes on someone else's First Amendment. Your right to not care about your health stops when it begins to affect my health, okay? If you want to sit at home and drink yourself to death, you're more than welcome to do that. That's fine. Do it. But if you're like halfway through drinking yourself to death, you get behind the wheel of a car and try to go somewhere, you are officially endangering other people, and your right to be drunk is valid, is invalid. And fuck you. It's the same thing with this pandemic. If you want to not take precautions when you're at home, if you want to, like, if you want to go out and lick doorknobs, or whatever the fuck, you know, if you want to lick your doorknobs at home, that's fine. But when you turn yourself basically into a vector, and see, the thing about masks is they're not to keep the virus out, they're to keep yourself in, okay? And so we all wear masks because if infected, you can spread the virus without any symptoms for up to 14 days. So, to be safe, we all just wear the mask in case we picked it up somewhere. And if you're not, you are putting everyone around you, mask or not, in danger. The best example of this I saw it was very stylized, but it was two naked men standing next to each other, and one of them starts pissing. Zero barrier, the other person gets piss all over them. Scenario 2. Guy B, who is the other person from, is wearing pants now when guy A begins pissing. Ultimately, he has less piss on him, but it's still not an ideal situation. And then the third scenario, both of them are wearing pants. So when guy A starts pissing, it has a hard time leaving his body. It's mostly just him that is now covered in piss. So, stop covering everything around you with piss. I'm going to have to record a disclaimer. I spent the first 8 minutes ranting about two idiots that I saw without masks on just because they happened to appear to be people in leadership positions. What is my life? Anyway, the perks of going along were, there was ice cream on sale, and I got to pick the flavors because she would have just brought home just chocolate and cookies and cream, which would have been fine. But I mean, if we're gonna get, these were like the single pint, so if we're just gonna get pints and they're on sale, let's try some stuff. So she got her cookies and cream, which is fine because we've not tried that from this brand before. But I also picked up basically cookies and chocolate cream, which is just, instead of vanilla ice cream with what are essentially Oreos broken into them, it's chocolate ice cream with what is essentially Oreos broken in them. Something called I can't remember what it's called, but it's brownie and fudge. That sounds amazing. And then mint chocolate chip, which was fantastic. It was amazing, and I am very happy that we have it. So on that front, it's been an excellent day. Continued down the path of completing Strikers. I have completed my compendium now, and the only hurdle left is maxing out the Confidant replacement, which might take a while. I'm close to the end, but at the same time I think I'm burning myself out a little bit. So depending on how I feel in the morning, or whenever I get up, I'm thinking about taking a break and visiting something else for a little bit. And what I have in mind is the original Katamari Damacy, which, let's be frank, I'm just gonna emulate because I don't know anyone who has it and I don't want to track it down. And I don't even know if I'm gonna like it, but eventually, if I do, I might get it on Switch for the sake of it. I've only ever played like demos of that game at supermarket, like at Walmart, like at kiosks. So I've only ever played it, you know, while standing and looking at a TV screen that's like twice my eye level as far as height. Not the best place to discover whether or not you like a game. I remember it being fun, but also frustrating, and that was probably a combination of a lot of things. Anyway, I watched Vinny play the reroll, and it's got me curious, and honestly, it would just, like, it's something that I'll even if I get into it, will probably only be like 6 or 7 hours of my life, so less than a day's worth of gaming. And taking that little bit of a break with something novel like that will help me decide if I truly want to attempt to complete. Well, I mean, I say attempt, I will eventually, I'm sure, because honestly, it's just whether or not I want to go ahead and get it set up for New Game Plus, which I probably will, or at the very least get to post game, so that all I've got to do is a few things, which shouldn't be that bad because I've hit level 90 with my main character and everyone else is approaching 80. So, like, it shouldn't be work, it should just be kind of tedious. And like I said, if it gets to the end and I just really want to get it set up, I'll drop it down to the lowest difficulty and just power through it, because hard's kind of pushing back some, but mostly in the way of enemies are getting a little spongy and they're hitting a little bit harder, but honestly, for the most part, I don't know, I can't put my finger on it. I do know it's not as much of a slog as I thought it would be, probably because of how good the movement is just around the different worlds. I'm not putting all of this together very well. Like, I both want to finish it and am ready to move on. Like, so I think compromising with something short and then coming back and finishing it through, you know, setting up a New Game Plus before moving on to something a bit less, I like to go back and forth between action-intensive games and more passive. So, but basically, I want to continue Breath of Fire because it'll be a bit of a slower experience, which, you know, Strikers hasn't been too balls to the walls because it hasn't been as intense as, like, even Age of Calamity was, because there's just so much more narrative, which is a good thing. And it's good narrative too. Like, it really, really is. I was watching someone that I discovered a while back just from their reaction to some royal personified royal stuff, and she was like, "Look, I don't care how much Atlas milks Persona 5 if it means we get more of this music." And you know, I am 100% on board. Persona 5 music slaps hard. And as long as Lynn is on vocals, she could be singing literal gibberish, and it would just sound like power and sex. And I love her so much. Do yourself a favor and go listen to Axe to Grind. That is some good stuff. Also, I was validated today because I heard it was one of the main themes, but it was also a remix of one of the battle themes from the original Persona 5, and it's just like really geared with like, it still very much has the DNA of Persona 5 music, but it's also really geared up with heavy guitar music because it kind of suits the battle style. Anyway, Alex Modella, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. A Italian composer. He's fantastic. And loves him some funk and some Final Fantasy. So we get on pretty good. He was doing a first time reaction to one of the tracks, and he immediately said, "This sounds like a Family Jewels cover." And I was so validated, because that was one of my first thoughts on one of the remixes in the game. I'm just like, this is just the original with Family Jewels on guitar in the background, and that's great. It's beautiful. I love it. Anyway, I'm tired. I'm really tired. I'm gonna go to bed. I'm not even gonna do that disclaimer, which you know by now. Whatever. I'll catch you all tomorrow. Oh, fuck.